Hi, my name's Neil Saunders and welcome to this week's edition of Retail Perspectives. What I'd like to talk about today are spaces and places of retail, those physical destinations where we go and do our shopping. Because actually one of the things we hear a lot about today is the decline of the physical space or the physical shop. And sometimes it can be quite dramatic. You can pick up headlines in papers that say, high streets in 10 years' time will be dead. Now, of course, we all know that high streets are under pressure, and we all know that physical spaces are under pressure, and we all know that some physical space in retail is closing. But actually, that masks a much more complex picture, because the truth is, what's actually happening in physical spaces and places is a polarisation. So there are some places where retail footfall, retail spend is getting a lot weaker, and those places are really suffering. Vacancy rates are going up, the centres are becoming more dilapidated, it's very difficult to get investment in. But then there's another group of centres that actually are doing very well. They're attracting footfall, they're pulling in crowds, they're making sales, they're attracting great retailers, and they're very well invested in. And it's that polarisation that we've seen a lot more of over the past 5 years. I think one of the lessons that comes from that is to look at the difference between those places that are doing well and those places that aren't doing so well. And one of the things that differentiates the two is the degree to which those that are doing well focus on a lot of things other than retail. Now, of course, retail is very important. It's one of the main reasons people will go out to a shopping centre or a high street. But what we've actually seen over the past 5 years is much more balance in the reasons as to why people choose to go to certain destinations. And one of the things that comes out much more strongly alongside retail nowadays is the fact that people want to turn the day into a leisure experience. They don't just want to go out and necessarily buy a product, they want to make a day of it. And that means that those destinations that offer things like cinemas, restaurants, dining opportunities, all those kind of leisure activities that you might do alongside shopping tend to do a lot better. Because people say, well, if we're going to make a day of it, if we're going to go out, we might as well go to a destination that entertains us, that keeps us occupied for a reasonable amount of time. It's interesting when you look at some of the new schemes, both by retailers and developers that are coming out, because you'll see this trend reflected a lot more. So for example, if you look at Trinity in Leeds, that's been developed recently by Land Securities, you'll find the food service offering there is a lot greater in terms of the amount of space it occupies than it has been in many shopping centres that came before it. And actually there's not only more food service, actually it's more innovative as well. So you find street food concepts, you find local restaurants that you traditionally wouldn't have found in shopping centres because they provide that point of differentiation. And of course it's not just confined to big shopping centres. If you look at some of the things that individual retailers are doing, you find more of those leisure things creeping in. So for example, John Lewis, much more emphasis now on places to eat within the store, on brasseries, coffee shops, all of those kind of dining opportunities. Much more emphasis on services, things like beauty services, because it helps people occupy their day. Also, grocers have not been immune. We know that Tesco has done a lot in Watford. Waitrose has also been busy developing cafes and other concepts to attract people in, to get them to linger. This is all very important because when we look at our own evidence in terms of how people are behaving with relation to food service, it's really notable that so many people are using it. Over the past year, for example, about 78% of people have used food service at least once when they've gone out shopping. And 19.3% more people than last 6 months are using food service now. So actually, it's become a lot more important as a component in choosing where to shop. So I think the key, or one of the keys at least, that differentiates those that do well as places and spaces and those that don't do so well is the integration of this leisure and food service offering. And those that realise that it's not just about buying products, it's about entertaining the consumer, it's about providing them with a fun and valuable day out. Those places and spaces are the ones that are going to do best over the next 10 years.